Hey everyone, and welcome to the latest Eagle Eye podcast presented by Nissan with Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. This hiring cycle in 2022 is stuck in the mud, and it's starting to get free a little bit. We know we're recording this on Thursday afternoon. We know two of the jobs have been taken in Denver and in Chicago. Denver's hiring Nathaniel Hackett from Green Bay, and Chicago's hiring Matt Eberflus from Indianapolis. But there's still 7 jobs open after Sean Payton stepped down. I mean, it's taken a while.
Yeah, it's been interesting. It seems like teams are interviewing more people. I mean, some of these teams are interviewing up to 10 people. I don't blame them. It's just such a huge decision for your franchise. Coordinators seem to be very hot and former head coaches not. And I wrote a piece about Doug Pederson, who's kind of disappeared from the whole process over the last couple of weeks. And he got a head start on everything because he wasn't under contract, so nobody had to ask permission to interview him. And he interviewed with the Bears and the Jaguars. But since then, and look, it's possible that something has happened behind the scenes that was never reported. He was linked at one point with the Vikings, but I don't think he ever interviewed there. There was a report that he would. I don't think that's ever happened. The Bears obviously hired somebody. The Jaguars haven't, and they're kind of, it looks like their talks with Byron Leftwich fell apart for some reason, most likely having to do with Trent Baalke. They also interviewed, I believe, was it Hackett and Eberflus? So, I mean, their next best candidate might be Darrell Bevell, who was the interim guy. But none of these teams, I mean, the teams that Doug interviewed with, he didn't get a second interview with either one. And they both seem to be going in a different direction. So for a guy that just won a Super Bowl 4 years ago, it's a little bit surprising.
Yeah, I've been thinking about Doug and trying to figure out why this is that the interest doesn't appear to be there. Do you think he's just not interviewing well? You know, like when he came to Philly, he had a background with Jeff Lurie, with Howie, and that probably helped a little bit. I just wonder if he's not blowing them away in the interview process.
Yeah, I think that's one thing to consider. And the other might be, and we're just speculating now, I mean, we know he had issues with assistant coaches with building a staff when he was here. It was really one of the bigger issues between him and management at the end. He's never shown a real affinity for building a staff like some people. And if you don't go in there really prepared with, this is who, everything down from your coordinators down to your interns and quality control guys, that doesn't reflect well. So those are the two things I thought of. Maybe he's not interviewing well. And Doug's an interesting guy because I think sometimes he comes across really well, but then there are times where he doesn't. And we've seen that. But he's got a Lombardi trophy. So, that should, and I'm surprised. I mean, if only 2 teams even brought him in, then you wonder, maybe does word get around that he doesn't have a staff? Does word get around that he's not interviewing well? And I don't know. I mean, those are the logical things you look at because you would think out of 9 openings, 7 now, and the Saints are just getting started. I saw they just requested permission to interview Leftwich, which is, they didn't waste any time with that. But it does make you wonder what exactly is happening. And, it's not like there's a ton of offensive coordinator jobs open, depending on who else gets hired here. You wonder if he's going to be in the league this year. It's interesting. I think he really needed the year off, but I'm sure he's ready to get back in.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, he might have to take some sort of, made up role that he can help a team, I'm sure, but I don't know if there's going to be an OC job either. It's a weird circumstance. It really does seem like there's this, teams want to find their guy, and their guy means finding a hot coordinator or even not a hot coordinator. We saw the Eagles do it last year with Sirianni, who certainly wasn't a hot coordinator. He was a coordinator. But I think there's something to that, though. I think guys want to find their own coach, and they don't want to retread. I don't know. You're right. The retreads aren't really getting much look. And it's weird with Doug too, because it's not just, if he just won the Super Bowl one year and the other years were horrible, you'd be like, all right, maybe teams are looking at that 2017 year as a fluke. But He got them back to the playoffs next year. So they won a playoff game the year after that. So he really had one bad year.
Yeah, he had one bad year. It was a real bad year, but most recent. The head coaches who are getting interviews, like Dan Quinn, are hot coordinator. The former head coaches are hot coordinators for the most part.
And he's staying in Dallas. He announced
he's staying in Dallas, which potentially opens up, something because he was good. He's going to get a job somewhere if he wanted one. He had an interview he was turning down interviews. He told the Jaguars, I don't want to talk to you because if I do take a job, it's not going to be here.
Well, it seemed like his top two choices, though, or the most interest were the jobs that got filled.
Yeah, that's true. You wonder about the Giants. Like, if I'm the Giants, I would at least bring Doug Pederson in. I mean, he kicked their ass for 5 years.
It would make sense.
Just at least talk to the guy. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, what is Doug, 53, I believe. So he's still relatively young guy. The more removed you are from it, I mean, there's not a lot of Vermeils that, 15 years later get hired. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think he's a good coach, and something's holding him back, though.
Yeah, with the Denver job off the table, that means Gannon is down to two possibilities, Minnesota and Houston, which for a while there was talk that he was a front runner in Houston. That job, we haven't heard much about that Texans job really since then, as far as Gannon goes. And the latest news with Eberflus, Ian Rappaport from NFL Network floated Kevin Patullo's name as a possible offensive coordinator. Little surprised to hear it. But Eberflus and Patullo, who's the Eagles passing game coordinator, worked together in Indianapolis. Patullo, if you guys remember, was the guy who would have taken over for Nick if he missed that the Washington game.
Yeah,
the Washington game.
Over, but Steichen would have called the plays. So
yeah, but Patullo would have been
he would have decided
head coaching responsibilities. Yeah,
who would have decided if they're going for it on fourth down?
Patullo.
You think?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's weird because we don't know a whole lot about him. Did we talk to him once in training camp? Maybe.
Yeah, and we talked to him later in the year.
Yeah,
when that game was coming up. He clearly, though, I mean, as much as it's a little surprising to hear him be an offensive coordinator candidate based on he's a pass game coordinator for statistically one of the worst passing offenses in the league. But we know Nick Sirianni trusts him. Like, he literally came here with him. There was one coach that came with him from Indy, and it was Kevin Patullo. So he's kind of like his right-hand man. And he wouldn't want to lose him for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. And Eberflus has worked with him. He knows him. So so much of these jobs is who you know and who guys are comfortable with. I mean, it's funny. I saw where Mike Caldwell, the former Eagles linebacker, is interviewing with the Ravens for their vacant defensive coordinator job. And Mike Caldwell, he played for the Eagles from 98 until 2001. Played here 4 years. Who was a special teams coach? John Harbaugh. That was 20 years ago, but that's how you build relationships, and people don't forget. And Mike Caldwell was a really good football mind, and he's linebackers coach with the who's he linebackers coach with now? Bucks, I believe.
I believe so.
And he's a good coach, and he's kind of you have a connection like that. It's big shoes to fill. Wink Market, Don Martindale, but. It's a good name to. And he was a really good Eagle. So it'll be good to. I guess he would be. Would he technically be on the Andy Reid tree? He played for Andy.
I don't know. It's always a tricky one to figure out because the toughest one in that area for me is because everyone talks about how the Belichick assistants fail, and Vrabel never coached under Belichick, but he kind of coached under Belichick while he was a player. So that's always like a tricky, where do you put him? Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. So another good name to watch is Mike Caldwell.
Yeah. And it was funny with Gannon, we asked Sirianni about, have you talked to him about taking coaches? And Sirianni, I think he was joking. He was like, no, you're not allowed to take anyone. You're not allowed to poach anyone. I was sitting there thinking, you took like 4 coaches from Indianapolis, from Frank's staff, right? He took Gannon, he took Batulo, he took Jason Michael. I mean,
yeah,
he took a lot from them.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And Frank misses those guys, I'm sure. Score big with the AAA Eagles MVP membership, along with the superb roadside assistance and discounts you've come to expect from AAA. Get exclusive Eagles-related perks. For all the details, visit AAA.com/Eagles. Nissan just made your choice for a new car an easier one than ever with their most exciting and fuel-efficient lineup. The choice is yours, and get great offers across Nissan's full line. Shop your local Nissan store today at nissanusa.com.
Rube, let's look back at our predictions from before the 2021 season. I don't even remember what we predicted. It's been so long. And I can't believe you didn't lose it.
You know me so well. No, I slugged it. Eagle Eye 2021 Reuben Dave predictions. So no matter what I searched for, it would turn up. And then I emailed a copy to myself. So I had it in a lot of different places to make sure I didn't lose it. It was like the one year I lost it, so I just made it up. That was the year I won 9 out of 10. All right, here we go. We started with Jalen Hurts total touchdowns, passing and rushing combined. You picked 34. I picked 32. We were both over. He had 26, so I was closer on that one.
Okay.
The next one was Devontae Smith receiving yards. We're both in the right range. He had 916. I picked 989. I was pretty close. You picked 913. You're off by 3 yards.
Did I really?
You did.
Wow.
You're off by 3 yards.
How about
that? Yeah. The next one was we did Ertz catches and Goddard catches. It was a 2-part question.
Oh man, how does this count?
Well, I went with total Ertz catches. I just figured that was the only way that made sense. Goddard had 56. I guessed 58, and you guessed 65. So I was a little closer on that one. Ertz had 75. You guessed 56. I guessed 48. So you were closer on him. So we each got half a point on that one. I guess we could.
I really saw ahead, and I was like, he's going to get traded and get a bigger role, and
we could do who was. Yeah. So anyway, this next one's hilarious. We guessed how many sacks the Eagles would have, and we did this like a couple weeks before the season. So we're coming in at training camp. Sweat looks like a beast. Fletcher looks invigorated. They're wrecking stuff all over the place. They had 29 sacks. I guessed 53. You guessed 55.
Gosh, we should both take big L's for that one.
I was closer, though, so I'm taking the W.
I would have been closer not guessing.
Well, almost. You're off by 26. If you guessed none, you would have been off by 29. So you're almost true. So the next one is Miles Sanders rushing yards. And obviously he had some injuries. You guessed 1,200. I guessed 1,088. He had 754. So I'll take that one. So I'm up now. Well, if we split up the tight ends, I'm up 3.5 to 1.5 as we hit the halfway point. Then we go to Gainwell total yards. I don't know what I was thinking. I said 788. You said 425. So you were off by just about 100. He had 544. I was off by 244. So you get a point for that one. Darius Slay interceptions. I said 4. He had 3. You said 3. So
nice.
So you get that one. So that ties it up. Josh Sweat sacks. God, what was I thinking here? I bought into it. I said 11.5. He had 7.5.
You had him with 28.5 sacks.
I had 11.5. I just really, I thought he was going to have a really big year. He had 7.5. You said 8.5. You're off by 1 sack. It's funny. We both had a half sack, and he had 7.5 sacks. So we both got the half right. So you're up by 1 here going into the last 3 questions. Landon Dickerson starts. Now, at this point, we didn't know Seumalo was going to get hurt. We didn't know anything. You guessed 3. I guessed 4. He had 13. I'm closer. I get the point. So that ties it up. The next one was the total snap percentage for the Colts starting quarterback.
Oh, wow.
You guessed 84.5%. I guessed 68. It was 99.
I guess 84.5. What is
Yes,
wrong with me? Why would I guess a half percentage?
That's what you did. You were, I don't know. Your mind was working in strange and mysterious ways. So you're up 1 with 1 to go. And the last question is, how many points would the Eagles score this year? And I guess 379. You guessed 416. It was over that. I think I forgot there was 17 games. So you ended up winning by 2.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but
you weren't lying. I thought it was going to be really bad for me.
No, I wouldn't do that. I don't lie. I mislead, but I don't lie.
All right.
But it's funny how some of our guesses were so far off, and then others were like really, really close. You know, and you look back now and you think like, I mean, we're both guessing mid-50s for sacks, and they had like half that. They were like 31st in the league in sacks with Hargrave and Fletcher. And we didn't know BG was going to get hurt, obviously, at that point. But still, we were both really close on Devontae. We were pretty close on Jalen's total touchdowns. You know, if he played every game, he probably would have been. We would have been right there. Slay interceptions, we were real close. So we weren't that far off. A little high in Miles Sanders rushing yards. Now, total yards wouldn't really change it that much. So, but that was fun. We'll do that again.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, you got anything else before we wrap this up?
That's all I got.
Before I get to our stuff, I want to mention, please check out the Takeoff with John Clark podcast. He's been having some pretty great guests on there recently, Jimmy Rollins and Tony Dungy. So be sure to check that out. You can find them wherever you listen to our podcast. And if you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button and subscribe there as well. Rube, the next time I talk to you, I'll be in Mobile, Alabama for the Senior Bowl. We're getting ready for draft stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, got to move it on to the offseason stuff. It'll be great.
All right. Take care, everyone. We'll talk to you soon.